Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today is a special guest, Nate Lopez, who actually does not have a home cleaning business. He runs two separate ones that are in the pet industry. One is called Pawdicure, and the other one is Go Buddy Run. One is mobile nail trimming, and the other is a mobile fitness for your dog, where they come out to your home and help you work out your dog. Nate, thank you so much for being here with us today and telling us about your business.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. What's your background? I know you're in Virginia now. Are you born and raised there, or did you move there?
No, I'm actually from where you guys are at. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, originally though, but I don't really claim that as my home because I moved as a young child, like around 10 years old. I moved to Las Vegas. I lived there for, I don't know, maybe 5 years, and things were going south fast out there. So we moved to Kentucky with my sister, who joined the Army.
Okay.
And from there to Arizona. And then from there, I joined the military myself. I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. I'm a combat veteran. I went to Afghanistan twice. And afterwards, I came back to the States. I moved to Virginia, and I worked for about, I'd say 12 more years in the defense industry, working as a contractor for multiple different agencies out here.
What's your favorite thing to do then with your wife? Besides, I mean, obviously you have the businesses going, you have your kids. What's something fun you and your wife like to do?
So we live in the suburbs, and we're like in closer to a transition zone to the more rural areas. So we're like, I'd say, to horse country and wine country. It's like 20 minutes to the west of us, and then 30 minutes to the east is Washington, D.C. We like to go out and go to different wineries, and occasionally bed and breakfast, B&Bs. They're really nice out here, and there's a lot of historical buildings close to where we live. There's a lot of history and culture in a lot more in the rural areas. So we like to get away from the hustle and bustle. So like when we were discussing this podcast, I was telling you I kind of disappeared for a while, but because I was in the mountains in Shenandoah, and there was no signal. And and that's probably a good thing, right?
Yeah.
But it was nice. I took the kids. We shot guns. We did little hikes, and it was really fun and isolated. That's what me and my wife try to do. We try to focus more on experiences than gifts and things like that. I think it's more valuable and more impactful. Like when I asked my kids what they got for Christmas, they already forgot. But if I ask them what they did, they'd be like, "Oh, last year we went to New York and we went up to the Empire State Building. This year we were shooting a machine gun." It wasn't a machine gun, but to them they don't know the difference. But
Right.
it was really fun and special, and that's what me and my wife try to do. We try to find places where we can unwind and enjoy nature, and the beauty of the country, like the landscape out west from us. It's just beautiful. If you're in the right spot, you can see the whole some of the urban areas. It's just fantastic. That's one thing that I like about here. Versus the west, when I used to live in Arizona and Las Vegas, I love it too. And eventually, when you're out there, you won't miss. You'll stop missing all the greenery, right?
Yeah.
But then once you fly west, you're like, wow, look at all this green. I mean, east, look at all this green out here. It's beautiful. I love the greenery out here versus the mesquite trees and tumbleweeds.
When you were younger, did you know you wanted to go to the military and, after that become a business owner, or what were some of the things you were dreaming about as a kid?
I knew I wanted to be in business from an early age, and um, you know, I when I was like in second grade, I used to draw pictures. When I used to live in Chicago, I used to draw pictures of the Bulls logo, like somebody spray painting the Bulls logo on there. Really cool pictures, and I used to sell them to my friends for like $1 or $2. I was trying to get that money for the ho-ho cakes at lunchtime. Um, and it worked. And, my mom would laugh at me, like, how do you sell pictures? It's like, well, I got one friend and he buys them almost every day. Um, so I knew at an early age that I wanted to sell and build. And as far as wanting to join the military, one of the things that really inspired me to join the military was 9/11. When I woke up that morning to go to school, I saw everything going down. And as a young kid, seeing people jump out of those buildings, I at that age I just wanted revenge for all those people, and that kind of stayed with me for a while as a teenager until I became an adult. 18, and my brother and sister, they joined the Army, and I wanted to one up them, so I joined the Marine Corps. And so that's kind of how that all played out. But business has always been something that I knew I was destined for, because I always had good ideas, what I thought were good ideas. And, me and my group of friends growing up, I used to always tell them things like, look, we can make money somehow, right? All you have to do is sell. Like, if you have gum, if you sell gum for 25 cents, you just got to sell this amount to be rich, right? Obviously, that's a little bit easier said than done, but the concept is there, right? If you have a product
Right.
and you can sell a product, then that's the first step, right? And that's what we've done with Pawdicure and Go Buddy Run. Go Buddy Run specifically, it's definitely a new product. We're the first ones on the East Coast. I think we're the third mobile dog gym in the world, but now there's plenty. There is probably like 20 of them in Canada. There's some in Canada now, and multiple states. I think the first two were in Arizona or Las Vegas, one of those two places, and then me out east in the National Capital Region.
What made you come up with those two business ideas? I mean, the pet industry is big for sure, but it's, brick and mortar. You go to PetSmart, you go to, even a mom and pop place where they have a storefront, and you go bath, haircuts and nail clipping and stuff like that. But mobile, that was great idea for sure. As well as, some people might be like, well, for the mobile gym for a dog, why not just take the dog out and walk them for the 30, 40 minutes? Why would I have, what does that entail for somebody booking a mobile gym? So talk on those things.
Yeah, sure. And that's actually one of the challenges too, right? Because like you said, why can't I just walk my dog? So that challenge is educating people, right? Especially it's a new concept, and being the first in Virginia, you start seeing ads of dogs running on a treadmill. You're like, why? Well, what is this? I've never seen this before. Why don't you just walk the dog? And that's absolutely true. Like, you should walk your dog. But the educational part of it is you can't run with your dog, right? At least not for that long, and as fast as your dog wants to go, right? If you're on a leash, if your dog's on a leash, you'd have to be really an athlete to run 13 to 15 miles per hour for 30 minutes, intervals, right? We don't, run them for 15 minutes. If they can do that, we stop them, right? We give them, all right, slow down, dog, slow down a little bit. and then keep it up like intervals. It's merely trying to get a serious exercise that you can't really get from walking, right? That a dog can't really get from walking alone, right? And out here, not everybody has backyards where your dogs can run freely, and in some cases, there's not a lot of places to run with your dog, right? Especially if you're closer to the city. You're going to be running on concrete with your dog potentially, and you're not going to run as fast as your dog can run in order to get that aerobic exercise, get that heart rate high enough to actually enter a state of exercise. Walking for dogs is great, but supplementing the walking regimen with occasional running and vigorous exercise, it's a fantastic thing for dogs. It's not only mentally stimulating when they're learning a new thing, but it has impacts on their behavior. It has impacts on their energy levels and their limberness. And generally speaking, just like for humans, if you work out, you're going to be healthier, and there's a likelihood that you're going to live longer. It's the same for most animals, at least pets that we keep, like a cat, dog. If your hamster stops running on the hamster wheel, eventually it's going to slow down to the point where it's going to stop, right? So that's kind of how we view it, and there is science behind it, but I had to do the research beforehand so I can educate the customers, but I don't have all of that in front of me to recite, like the actual specific science behind it. But generally speaking, if you do exercise and you get your heart rate up, that's good stuff. That's good cardiovascular exercise. Your lungs get stronger, you get more stamina. And for the dogs, they get tired, right? So a lot of people, when they're having guests over, if they have an overactive and hyperactive dog who's zooming around the house, right, that's an indicator that your dog is not getting exercise enough, right? So that's his body saying, hey, we got a lot of energy, we need to get rid of it, right? And that's why they're moving fast. So that's why they call them zoomies. They don't go slow, they go fast.
They go fast.
Yeah.
My dog definitely gets them, and he seems like he's bouncing off the walls at times. And
yeah, and this is a Go Buddy Run. A session with Go Buddy Run will typically alleviate those types of issues. It'll have your dog a lot more calmer. It'll have your dog sleep and rest very comfortably, and it's really safe because in our treadmills they're not powered by motors, right? So we're not like forcing your dog to run like on a treadmill and setting it to 10 and saying, hey, good luck, buddy. No, it's a slat mill, so it runs on, it's almost like a fidget spinner, right? The thing is spinning when you move it, and then if you stop it, it stops. So the dogs are always in full control, and I invite people to check us out on Instagram and our website. There's videos there so you can actually kind of see us in action and judge for yourself how the dogs look and feel when they're on there.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, we're definitely going to put you in the description, but Go Buddy Run for all your handles, Facebook, Instagram, wherever else you're at. It's just Go Buddy Run.
Go Buddy Run. I think one of them, like on Twitter, which I don't really use for Go Buddy Run specifically, it might have a different handle, but everything is linked on the website, GoBuddyRun.com.
Awesome. And Pawdicure, what about that one? Is that strictly nail trims and nail grindings, or do you do more services for that?
We do strictly nail trims and nail grinds. That's it. And that was my idea behind it, like very niche. We didn't want to add different services to overwhelm a technician, right? The technicians are typically vet techs or dog groomers. So they already have the experience of doing that. So we started Pawdicure to kind of give our staff the ability to earn income on the side, closer to their home, because we had a few staff members over the years that lived far. They had a high commute time to come to the shop, and when COVID hit, there was a decline in service because some people were scared to come out, and in some cases they couldn't, right? So we were like, well, these people have skills that they can serve people in their community. How can we build something to bring the customer in need of those services and the person with the skills, and keep them close together so they're not driving long distance just to do a nail trim? And so far it's working. I mean, it's a challenge to get people, to get technicians, but the customers, they love it. They love it, because not everybody goes to a dog grooming shop for their dog, because some dogs are short-haired, so they take care of it at home. But then when it gets to the nails, the dog goes ballistic, or simply some people are just older. They have older dogs and they're older themselves. They can't run around and chase their dog everywhere. And if you were a mobile groomer too, right? A mobile dog groomer is not going to want to. I mean, they can. I'm not speaking for all of them, but if you have a van to groom dogs, you don't want to fill up your appointment times with just a nail trim, and
True.
take the whole van over there for a nail trim, which is a way smaller cost, right? You're not going to earn as much. So you want to leave your time open for the full grooms as much as you can, right? So we wanted to do this to alleviate pressure on a lot of businesses, including our dog grooming shop. So, and I think it's working. A lot of people like it. The technicians are earning, and with BookingKoala and the way we have it set up, we can pay the technicians out the next day, or same day, and then it processes. Sometimes it hits the next morning in their accounts. So people are liking it. We give the technicians the ability to narrow their service areas so they don't have to drive a lot. If they want to do it more, they can expand their service areas and start picking up appointments in different areas too, if they're willing to drive that far. And it's been great so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing to develop it.
It's crazy that, you have this. And if you were in Chicago, I'd be using you hands down, because this is something me and my wife actually have been talking about recently, because we got a mini Aussie, and, in our apartment building, there's a specific area where you can groom your dog, bath and stuff. He's fine. It takes two of us to clip his nails, and I got to wear one of those goofy looking backpacks where he just sits in it and his paws are out because he just squirms too much. And then she thinks she's hurting him by, clipping his nails, and it's just not a fun process for anybody. But then again, like you said, just taking up a booking spot by going to PetSmart or whatever for that doesn't. You can kind of see the agitation from the groomer who's like, well, you're taking a primetime spot just for this, 15-minute thing, and it's not really worth their time. But if it was, like you said, like what you're doing, if it was here, man, it would be a breeze, because we have no problem giving him a bath. But when it comes to trimming his nails, it's like we dread the hell out of that.
Yeah, and I know we own a dog grooming shop, like I said earlier, and that's the feedback that we got, just like that. Like, I tried to do the nails myself, but I couldn't. So the dogs come and they don't need any service. They just need the nail trim. And as a business owner of the salon, I look at it like, we want to serve everybody. We'd love to serve them. And we don't reject anybody who comes into the store for a nail trim, right? But when you see your groomers in the back and they all have dogs on the table, right? They have to stop that. Like, they are now, somebody else has to either come watch the dog while it's still on the table, or they need to take the dog off the table, put it somewhere safe, like in a crate, and then go to the counter to get the other dog, bring it back, put it on the table, and in some cases they might need another hand, right? So it's the workflow gets severely interrupted with that, but at the same time, we're a service business and we take them anyway, and we do it.
And
But
it also with workflow, it's the customer's workflow. Like if me and my wife are busy, we got to figure out a way to, fit in on our route, taking the dog to PetSmart to get that. But if you come to us, that's more than half the problem's taken care of.
yeah, and it's a good price point. I mean, it's a little more of a premium than you would get when you come into our store. But
Sure.
yeah, that's actually the point. Like, this is the same way like when you order a McDonald's from DoorDash, which I would never do, but I'm just saying it's possible, right? You're gonna pay a lot for that Big Mac, even
Yep.
though, yeah, I'm just gonna say this: it's already expensive now, but
Yeah. Hell
you're
yeah.
gonna pay like $10 for a Big Mac to get delivered to you. So a lot of people are comfortable with the cost, and with BookingKoala, we can set it up so that there's even more incentives, right? So if you add another dog, like so, a base price for a regular nail trim, not the grinding or the filing, just a regular nail trim, it's $25, but it's only $10 extra to add the next dog. So for multi-pet households, it's convenient and it's a good price point. And we do cats too. And in the future, we want to add other animals because we are already getting requests from a lot of people like, hey, dude, can you cut my gerbil's nails? Can you cut my ferret's nails? My bird, my lizard. So as we continue it, we see more opportunities as well. Um, and now my main focus is trying to incentivize the technicians who are signing up for the service to be technicians, and the workflow of the hiring flow and process of how we vet them. So we're refining all of those things. It's easy out here because I can just go and meet them and see them and talk to them. But when we expand, it's a little bit harder to do. And actually, I got a funny story about this one. And maybe some of the folks at BookingKoala who were working with me on these issues will remember. But when I first had this idea, like I'm the kind of guy that sometimes I get a little ahead of my skis. And when my wife and I came up with the idea, I was like, well, I already have GoBuddy Run, so I already had the service that I'm going to use to power this in the back of my head, and I had actually, I think I had a pretty good idea of the capabilities of BookingKoala. At that time, I was a little bit more active in the Facebook group, helping people because I knew like I ran into that issue. This is what you got to do. But I launched it nationally at first, and when I did that, like I had like 500 people sign up to become technicians like in like 2 days, and I was like, whoa, how do I get these people vetted? I got one vetted in Colorado, but we had issues with the time zone features. Like, it was it could have worked, but it was definitely way too much too early for me, right? To like, because I did at first, I had people out in Florida, in Pennsylvania. I had a person in New York. I had a person, 3 people in California, a couple people in Colorado, signed up and ready to go. And eventually, I was like, you know what, this is too much, and it's gonna kill the business trying to do it like this. Let's start small. Let's go back home. And then we focused in Virginia, and that's where we're still focusing now, but with the intent to grow out of Virginia again, right?
And this is Pawdicure.
Yeah, that's Pawdicure. Yeah,
So within 2 days of launching, you, I mean, a self-imposed goof up of not staying locally, but just
yeah,
going big for your britches. Let's go nationally. You had 500 signups in the first week for
Yeah,
independent contractors. And
it was crazy. It was crazy. I didn't know what to do, how to go through all of them, because at this time it was just me. My wife is running the shop, so I'm at home like blasting away. And at this time, I was working still for the government. Well, not for the government, but supporting that whole thing. Um, and yeah, it was a good experience, and it probably would have worked a little bit better had the hiring module been out at that time. I don't think it was out yet. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't, because I would have used it. Um, that would have been able to organize it. Instead, I was like on Indeed, looking at all these people, and on Facebook jobs, like, oh man, this is too much. So if anybody's watching this who applied for a long time ago, I really do apologize if I never got back to you. There's just too much, and maybe you can give us another chance when we're ready in the future.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I don't think you could get more of a confirmation or proof of concept than that, And then you have, with all the other interviews I've done, one of the biggest pain points is hiring and finding reputable people. You stated that you haven't gotten back to people, so you haven't vetted all those from all the different states, but just finding that many that quickly
Yeah.
is huge, So when you do start expanding, you already know it'll work. It's just fine tuning your process and getting those things going,
Yeah.
With 3 businesses, did you have any help from family along the way? Like anybody in your family, business owner that could guide you with this stuff?
No, I'm the first business owner in my immediate family, and if I do have other family members out there that run businesses, uh, shout out to you. Actually, I do have one family member in Chicago who runs a barber shop, but I'm not really close with them, so I see it in passing here and there, and early on, I try to share support. Um, but
But nobody you could bounce. You had nobody who
no,
you really can ask questions or they get guidance from. It was just you and your wife.
yeah, I learned the most from starting the dog grooming shop. Um, and the dog grooming shop is called Little Jennas Grooming. So if anybody's interested, you can go to littlejennas.com and see the story and some images of how we started. But we started right here, actually, on the other side of this wall right here is a bathroom. Um, and that's where we started grooming dogs. Um, and then we renovated my garage and moved out to the garage and did that. And then it took about 3 years to build a client base that would support a retail location. So now there's a storefront, and that process allowed us to learn a lot. Like we learned how to negotiate leases, we learned how to deal with architects to design the store. We learned about zoning, licensing, and all
It's a
these
lot.
different requirements that the counties have. And taxes, we learned about that. Like, hey, you can't do that if you don't pay us this. You can't. Hey, you have to have a permit. Well, it's not really a permit, but it's a fee that you have to pay annually. All right. Um, I learned that when you start a business, everybody puts their hands out that you don't know. Everybody puts
Absolutely.
their hands like, where's my cut? Um,
Uncle Sam will get you any way in multiple ways.
yes, they do, and so does the state. So I learned a lot, and the digital aspect of it, early on, building the websites, establishing marketing campaigns and strategies. I won't say that I'm an expert at those things, but I learned enough to communicate effectively with an expert, and in most cases, just do it myself. I might not get the same results, but hey, it is what it is. Um, that experience really allowed me to get Go Buddy Run and Pawdicure off the ground fairly quickly. And Pawdicure was a lot easier because there's really not that much overhead. It's just me here, and I do now have two people who work for me as administrators as well, because it got to be a big pain answering the phone all the time, and I was still working too. So I would get out of the office, and I'd have all these missed calls from clients. I had to do something, um, and yeah, that original experience of opening up Little Jenna's Grooming and all the digital aspects of it, like social media and things like that, that helped me. And with Little Jenna's, I tested out and implemented several booking tools throughout the company's history. And then we found one that worked for the shop and good price point as well. And when I found when I found BookingKoala for GoBuddyRun, I was looking at different things. One of the things that I liked the most was the customizable. It was so customizable that you could tailor it for so many different things, and that's one of the things I like to do. Is I like to push things to the limit, kind of like, how can I use this? And if I have an idea of how it should work, I'll reach out to them. And that also stood out from BookingKoala is that you guys actually respond, right? Like with like if I have a feature request, or if I have an issue, like errors going on, or something's just not working, 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, you have to go to this page, and there's a setting that you have to switch because we have that feature, right? But doing it with BookingKoala the first time and setting it up, it was easy to set up Pawdicure, like, and a separate workflow, like a booking flow, not too much different, but it just works fabulously. And the the provider app, the technicians, they're digging it, they're liking it, and it works for them too. So if it's not broken, don't fix it.
You started with Little Jennas, right? When did you start that one?
Little Jennas, we started it in the basement in 2014. Yeah.
2014. And then GoBuddyRun was second.
Yeah, GoBuddyRun was the second business, and I think we started that in 2020.
And then Pawdicure, when did you start that?
Pawdicure, I started that at the end of 2021, I believe. At the end of 2021 is when like December though. So basically 2022,
Okay. And then Little Jenna's is employees, right? GoBuddyRun and Pawdicure, are those contractors or are those employees as well?
GoBuddyRun is an employee.
Okay.
And Pawdicure is a combination. So on the administrative side, those are employees, and then the technicians are independent contractors, and we call them Pawdicure techs.
For GoBuddyRun, you have how many specific vehicles for the treadmills? I'm assuming they're called, right? How many treadmills in each truck, and how many trucks do you have?
Well, right now we only have one truck, and I know it's been a while, but the struggle and the difficulty with GoBuddyRun is initially when I started it, I couldn't actually run the dogs myself because I was working, right, full time. And finally, I got somebody in there, and we spent about a year just doing like pro bono stuff, shows, and teaching people around the neighborhood about it, creating content so we'd offer free runs for neighbors and anybody who wanted. That way we can train ourselves, and I can train the GoBuddyRun coach. We call them canine coaches. I can train him how to run the dogs and build his confidence and all of that. But it's such a niche service and so unique that it's hard to it's hard to have one small locality support the van, right? So we have to spread out the service areas, and we service most of Northern Virginia and even into DC and Maryland. And we break it out in our calendar in BookingKoala. We break it out like certain days. Like, so we have a day where we're out further east, like in the DC and Maryland area. But we set it up that way so that people all over the region can find availability, and that it's kind of like we try to develop a route with the schedule, right? So that he can't get an appointment in DC and then the next one he has got to go back this way, right? So that was a challenge too, to build that out in the scheduling tool, and but we got it to work. So it's still growing, but it's not the fastest growing business that I have. But I like it. It pays for itself now. So right now I'm not losing money on it. And I bought the van when it was cheap back then, so I can sell the van, and it's 3 years old. Well, it's 2017, the van, but it only had like 9,000 miles when I bought it. And looking at the value of it, I can sell it for more than I bought it. So already I'm kind of in the green if that ever needed to happen. But if I ever do sell it, I would pass everything on, because everything works. It's just, for me, it's just time, right? And based on our conversation, you could probably see that Pawdicure definitely has a lot more momentum,
Right.
which kind of shifting more of my time. So I'll be honest, I need to give Go Big Run a little bit more TLC, to get it a little where I need to go, and then I can start considering adding another van, right? And that's a tough decision though, because the vans are a lot more expensive now. Like if you get a Sprinter van or a Transit van, they're way more expensive today than they were when I got it. So no other vans yet. There's 2 treadmills in the van, and so we could run 2 dogs at a time, which we do often because some dogs have families. Some families have multiple dogs, and occasionally we'll have people in the same block. They'll get together, and so we'll run both of their dogs together, like 2 different clients at once, if they're close. And that happens often because the van is wrapped, so when it's out there, it gets a lot of attention. Like especially if a dog, there's a big dog running on there, and it says mobile dog gym, and so when you're in the neighborhood and you see that parked out somebody's house, a lot of people are interested. They'll stop and try to look in the window and see what's going on, and occasionally they'll open the door, let everybody watch.
And say you and your neighbor down the street do want to run your dogs at the same time because the dogs are friends, you can, I don't know if it's okay if you allow it, but split the cost then, because the truck it's in one spot, right? Or are you paying, how's the pay or set for that? Is it per dog or is it?
It's per dog, but like Pawdicure, it's a discount if you have the second dog. So for one dog, our price is $40. And for the second dog, it's another $15. So $55 for 2 dogs to run for 30 minutes. And for Go Buddy Run, we also offer add-ons, which is another cool feature of BookingKoala. You can set up different add-ons. So our K9 coach will walk your dog afterwards so they can relieve themselves before he brings them back up or back in the house. He can, if you're not there, right, he can still run your dog. He can feed your dog, walk your dog, just for a little bit of an extra fee. And we also have the time boost feature, because some clients, they want more time on the treadmill, or their dog trains a little bit more. So we do time boosts for 15 minutes, and people can buy that too as an add-on. So I'd say the average ticket is close to $55 to $60, because a lot of people get add-ons, and we also do nail trims with that too. So while we're there, if you want, we can cut your dog's nails.
Fantastic idea. I mean, you let me know the moment you expand to Chicago, and I'll be using that, because it really, it is niche, like you said, but it just makes so much sense. And work from home culture has shifted a lot of things around, made getting a pet more likely for people, getting a dog and stuff like that. But some people just get lazy and don't end up walking the dog as much, or running the dog as much. And like you said, walking a dog is not the same as walking them for 30 minutes is not the same as taking them to a dog park for 30 minutes and then letting them run around full blast with other dogs for 30 minutes. Two completely different exercise for their
Yeah.
bodies. So huge.
And yeah, and with the dog parks, not every dog is compatible with the dog park.
For
Right?
sure.
Some dogs are dog aggressive, and they can't be in an environment like that. So what do you do with them?
Right.
You call Go Buddy Run.
That's right. What inspired you to start Little Jennas, the first business?
Well, like I said earlier, I always knew I wanted to get into business, and so I had this endeavor with a couple of my Marine buddies while we were out in Afghanistan when 3D TVs and 3D was like really like, whoa, this is brand new stuff. This is going to be the future. So I was over here like trying to negotiate with Alibaba to try to get 3D glasses in bulk so that you didn't have to buy the expensive ones for your TV. You can buy cheaper ones from me and it'll work with your TV. So you guys can have 3D movie nights. That didn't work. None of the ones that I did before worked in any significant way. Like, whether it was a rewards program for video games and an online marketplace to trade your games. That was when I was younger. Because I felt like I'm tired of going to GameStop and them giving me $2 for this game that I paid $50 for. I can sell it to somebody for $10 and maybe trade them theirs. That didn't work either. I mean, it exists now. I was trying to do this before any of that kind of stuff existed, without knowing how to code or anything like that. And then what really inspired me was my wife. She had a great skill set, and she was doing. When I told you we were doing the dogs in the basement, at first we were just doing our neighbor's dog and her mother's dog, my mother-in-law, and some of those salon type environments, things can get a little catty or gossipy and stuff. So she got narked on. They narked on her. One of the girls at her salon narked on her, and she got fired. And part of it was my fault because I built a website for her, even though she didn't really want to, right? Because I was like, "Hey, you got something going on here." So I built a website for her, and trashiest website. It was terrible, but when they fired her, they brought her into the office and they're like, "Hey, what business? Oh, what's up with this little business that you have?" And it's like, "What do you mean? I don't have a business." And it's like, they went littlejennas.com. It's like, "You mean this one?" And she was like, "Oh." And after that, they canned her. So I told her when she got home, and I was like, "Look, sweetheart, you're making 50% commission on these things. How about you make 100% commission? Yeah, what do you think about that?" And that's where Little Jennas was kind of born. Like, I didn't want her skill set to just go nowhere, and neither does she. She loves it. She has a passion for it. She loves animals. She is the hand and the skills of the whole operation. And that's really what inspired me, is her getting fired and me wanting to show them, and I wanted her to be able to show them that she can do it and she can do it better. And we are doing it better, I think, right? I think it's a fantastic salon. I think we have one of the greatest teams in the whole region. I would go as far as to say, right? Because we have a team that we build trust in our teams. We build camaraderie, and we build a culture of respect, right? And trust is the first thing, right? But when you have those things in place, you build more than just a team. You build in like a family, you know. And my thought was, we have to pay them well too, which means we have to charge premium for our services, which means they better be very good at it, right? Because I'm not trying to have a subpar product and charge like if it's premium. No, we have to be premium, and they have to uphold that standard. And if they do, they will get paid handsomely, so that when they're here, they're not worried about, I can't make my card payment this month or things like that. So if you eliminate those things, right, they can focus on their job. They can focus on the relationships that they're building in here with each other, customers, and lower stress levels. Lower stress levels means dogs are going to be lower stressed, and means that they can focus on doing the best job that they can. But yeah, my wife is really the inspiration for almost all the things I do in business. She's a fantastic person. And
Shout out your wife.
yeah, she's actually right now doing a seminar, not a speaker. She's attending with one of my other dogs because she wants to get into showing our dogs. We have 3 poodles, and the puppy has a lot of potential for showing. Right, the older one, her heyday is past. Yeah, she's a good girl though, but she's just slow now. Right, she's like 13 years old almost, but
Just relaxing now.
mm-hmm. Let the young one take it.
With that's another thing. Family business, especially with this, where pets are part of the family. You, I mean, I know. Speaking for myself, I treat my dog like he's my son. My parents sometimes and family and friends think I'm crazy. Like he'll get hoodies, jackets, just bandanas, stuff like that, and they think it's much, but that's just pets not, they're just part of the family. Where big box, PetSmart, Petco, any of the big ones, I am not knocking them, but they're grooming salons. Out of personal experience, I feel that they just sometimes hire to hire. They don't hire the right people, and they kind of just hire somebody to fill the spot and get the work done. Whereas a family business, like yourself with your wife, your wife has the passion for it, loves animals. That's who you guys are going to hire. You guys aren't going to hire just to fill the position. You're going to vet and make sure that these people who are coming to take care of other animals love animals just as much as you guys do. And that's a huge advantage to family business like yours that the big box ones don't have.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And in PetSmart's defense, they have a good program to train groomers when they first get in, and a lot of the people who end up out in the job market, it's good that they have that basic training, right? Because you can build off of that. So we appreciate that when somebody leaves PetSmart with that basic training, because then it's easier to bring them up to our standard, which is a lot higher than PetSmart. But yeah, from my experience talking to different groomers who have worked there, some of them do enjoy it at first, but it's a grind. right? They're more focused on the volume versus the service. And I'm not talking about the groomers there. The groomers there are very good, and they try to do the best they can and do what's right. But it's the management teams and the corporate teams that don't. There's no connection between the groomer at the table with the dog
Sure.
and the guy at some regional office looking at a spreadsheet on how many dogs are getting groomed, right? There is no connection, and that leads to like a conveyor belt type system where it's just you get the dog in there, get them done, get them out, right? We do our dogs straight through, right? Our dog comes in, the dog gets worked on when they come in until they're done, right? That's learning lessons like that from my wife, and we were able to implement these things because we knew, like, all right, what don't we like about corporate, what the groomers don't like about corporate, and how can we differentiate ourselves from that. So PetSmart will charge you extra fee to so that your dog doesn't stay in a crate until it's its turn, right? When you come into Little Jennas, it's your turn. You came at the right time, right? It's your turn. It's your dog's turn. We're going to work on him until he's done. And we'll call you 30 minutes before he's even done so that you can start heading over.
There's no wait.
And yeah, and that way, as soon as he's done, he won't spend a lot of time in a crate, right? And people like that. And we don't charge them extra for that as an additional service. That's just the way we operate. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Absolutely. I don't want to knock PetSmart because I have taken my dog there, and I have a groomer that we constantly go back to when we need to go there. It's just like we've been talking. It's that connection, and you have a better understanding of it because you've hired previous workers from there. But like you said, it's just very corporate focused from the top to the management level where they just it's not there. That service, that care and service is not there. But you've got 3 outstanding businesses, and you've had to have faced some challenges over the years. So what have been some of those for all 3 of them, if they were the same, or I'm sure you had different ones for Go Buddy Run, Pawdicure, and Little Jennas?
Yeah, there's always challenges. The challenge is continuous; it doesn't stop. But specific challenges vary between the businesses. So I'll start with Little Jennas just because that's the one that's been around the most and has experienced the most challenges. Um, the first and biggest challenge is growing from a at-home type business to a retail footprint, right? Because that requires a lot of capital, right? We built our salon in an old cell phone singular wireless store, right? So we had to tear it apart. We had to do new plumbing, right? Because our county requires a hair trap or grease trap, essentially, um, which is a ton of money. That if you're just starting and you don't expect that, you definitely didn't plan for it, right? So those are challenges like when you're first starting out to building out a retail location. The cost to comply with a lot of these codes that you weren't originally aware of can start to add up. And a lot of times you don't learn about that until you talk to a professional like an architect or a designer who is a little bit more studied on the county regulations and the state regulations in terms of buildings and stuff like that. But the biggest challenge for Little Jennas was to building the team over time, because while we were building the team, we were also building ourselves, right? My wife wasn't a trained manager. She didn't have a lot of experience leading teams and people. Now, while I did, I didn't have experience leading groomers. I led Marines, which is totally different than service-based business. Um, and I didn't speak the lingo at the time either, so I didn't have any bona fides to go in there and tell groomers how to perform their job and what they should be doing, right? So that was a challenge. And when my wife got pregnant with my second, she she kind of had to step back from the business. Actually, no, this is my third child that was getting ready to be born. She had to kind of like step back, so we had to hire people, and we didn't have those same systems in place to vet them at that time. This is years ago, probably like in 2016, 2017 time frame. We didn't have any of those things, so the service quality started to go down, the reputation started to get damaged, and originally the reputation was pristine because it was just my wife in the garage. Maybe sometimes in the garage, that's where we got our first employee. Um, and we started learning about hiring, and we had some horror stories with different employees. We had challenges where an employee would come and the next day they're gone. They're done. They just never came back. We've had employees who would come in and I don't know what they were thinking, but they thought they'd like when they got hired that they bought the business or something, and they start like confrontational with the way things are run by the management team. And it's like, okay, come on. Like you just got here like yesterday. Maybe learn the processes before you try to change everything.
That's a first that I've heard. You just get hired and you're throwing your weight around like you own the place.
Yeah, just because of your experience and things. Like the employee was experienced and she was a manager before, but she wasn't a manager anymore.
Right.
So things like that. And at one point, I would say the biggest challenge was during COVID, right? So I called the governor's office, right? Because they were shutting everything down unless you were essential. And who the heck tells you if you're essential or not? So we didn't shut down because nobody had told us. But there's a lot of people who will try to complain like, oh, you shouldn't even be open, you're supposed to be shut down. So I called the governor's office myself and got somebody on the line, and I said, hey, look, this is what we do. And I was like, COVID could be on the dog's fur. These dogs need to get washed. I think it's essential. Right? And not that I convinced them or anything. It was already set. But I thought I was trying to sell them either way. And they said, no, you guys stay open. It's animal services are essential, like to get the dog food, to get them bathed, cleaned, and veterinary care. That's essential. So we stayed open, but with all that stuff going on, people were completely spooked. And then they were offering extra money if you stayed home, like unemployment stuff. And without giving too many clear details on that to the public, right? A lot of people who weren't well versed in the actual law of unemployment law, they thought that they were just going to go home and just stack extra money. And when that kind of became like a cultural thing, like, oh yeah, you get paid more staying home, that was a disaster for us. Like we went from like 12 employees to my wife and like two other people trying to keep the shop running. And a lot of those folks left because they were scared, right? And at that time we were like, well, we can't like force them to work
Sure.
when they're doing that. But eventually I had to step in, and I told them, I was like, look, here's the deal, right? We're open, we're hiring, you're not fired, you're not laid off, but here's the ultimatum: if you don't come back, then you're quitting. I'm not firing you, but if you don't come back, that's an indicator that you no longer have to work here. And it's important. I tried to tell them it's important that you understand this, because when you file for unemployment, if you do, right, they contact me. They send me letters, and I have to fill out the forms. And I'm not going to lie. I'm hiring. I need you. And that was a big challenge, because some people went ahead and did it anyway. And some of them probably are still paying back what they got that they didn't uh, they they didn't rate to be paid unemployment because they never got laid off. Um, that was a big challenge. It caused a lot of tension between the teams, you know, between the staff and and us, the management, you know. And that's another thing that's a challenge in all businesses. And this is a little bit more general, but when you have a business, uh, you know, your employees can be great, but they're never going to love the business and care for it like you do, right? Because if they did, they wouldn't have left, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't have left my wife working by herself, trying to do as many dogs as she can. Because guess what? It's COVID, but we still got to pay rent. It's COVID, but we still got to pay taxes, right? Um, and at that time, I was actually putting money into my own money into the business to keep it floating. Um, and then the PPP came along. I was able to get that, and then I was able to pay people to. I actually even created different jobs, like for some of them to stay home. Like there was a few of them who felt that they had immune compromisation, so they didn't want to be around. And I was like, totally respect it, but you still got to work. So you either got to do some videos for social media, you got to do something. You got to take phone calls at home, do training, learn. But because I did get that money for them, right? But I couldn't just pay them for doing nothing. And all of those things were challenges. The legalities of it all, the uncertainty of it all. I'd say, and probably many businesses agree that that was a challenging period for a lot of businesses. But those were the most challenging things. And some other ones just that I can mention off the top of my head is finding the financing to open up a shop when you don't have the sales record to, you know, because most banks, when you try to get a loan, they'll tell you, well, you need to be in business for at least a year and make $100,000 a year, at least minimum. And even then you might not get a loan because that's still not enough for them in most cases. All right. So how the heck do you make $100,000 when you're in the garage? Right? I literally can't, because there's not enough hours in the day of space to do that volume to generate that. So that was a challenge, deciding to where to get the financing, you know, selling my own personal assets to get it done. That was a challenge, both mentally and, you know, hoping that, look, this better work.
For sure.
And that was a big challenge, the financing. And then the mistakes along the way. Like, for example, the second day of being open, the air conditioning unit of our space stopped working. Right?
And this is for the store. This is for
This is,
Little Jennas.
this is for Little Jennas. It stopped working. And there was nowhere in the contract. So this is a lesson learned, right? First, I didn't get it inspected before signing the lease because I didn't know. You know, there's some things that you're just not going to know, and you don't know what you don't know. All right. So, and I had to try to negotiate with the landlord. Like, they didn't want to pay for it because it wasn't on the lease. And I was like, dude, this is just 2 days after I opened up. And, you know, so I was able to negotiate that they paid half, which still bothered me because I just put a ton of money into their building. That was a challenge. But I can probably speak about challenges for Little Jennas for a long time. So I'll try to shift over to Go Buddy Run. the biggest challenge for Go Buddy Run is customer acquisition and retention, right? Because Go Buddy Run doesn't work for every dog. And sometimes for other dogs, it takes multiple sessions for the dog to get comfortable. And there's various factors to that, right? So balancing out the pet parent, right? The pet parent wants to stay and see because it's so cool. It's brand new. Like, oh, I want to see my dog do this. But that's also a distraction for the dog, right? Because the dog is constantly looking at you like, what am I doing on this machine? And why are you standing out there? I want to go with you. Right?
Right.
So that first session, if it's being watched by the pet parent, it might not go as smoothly, right? Because the dog is a little scared and just wants to be close to their parent. And that could just trigger them not to want to come back. Like, oh, no, I don't think it's going to work for my dog, right? So that's
The
a
dog was
challenge.
just distracted, and
Yeah,
it messes with the parent's head. Like, waste of money.
yeah. So that could happen in a lot of occasions. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but on occasion it happens like that. And some dogs are just absolutely terrified as soon as they get there, right? So some parents don't want to give them a chance after that, even though we have videos of dogs early on. If you scroll further back in our timeline on social, we've had dogs that they're completely terrified. They're trying to sprawl themselves out on the treadmill, and then by the end of the 30 minutes, they're trotting along on that thing, right? So it does take some time, but it can be dramatic when a dog gets on there and is scared. Not physically endangering the dog, but enough noise and commotion to create uncertainty both in the pet parent and the dog, right?
Sure.
And people around in some cases, like, whoa, look at that dog! He's going crazy. He's so scared. And keeping them to try to come to their dog gets used to it. That's a challenge. And the other major challenge with the mobile business, like moving the van, going place to place, is managing the routes of appointments to maximize the fuel cost, which has gone up significantly over since we started. And at least during the peak of the gas prices, it was terrible. Those are the two major challenges for Go Buddy Run: is customer retention and acquisition, because it's such a niche and brand new service that most people don't even know exists, right? Most people, when they hear about us, it's the first time they ever heard of a dog gym, right? And that's a big challenge to overcome sometimes when you don't have all the financing and resources to pump out campaigns and teach everybody what it is, right? But that's what I try to do. I try to I want it to appear, when people see it, I want it to appear like it's a larger team, right? That is running this thing, right? Because perception can be reality for a lot of these people, for a lot of people in general. And little do they know, it's just a couple of us, right? And we're working hard in the back end, right? Trying to make everything flow smoothly, making sure everything is square, making sure their insurance coverage is there. Your dog, if something happened to the van, somebody ran into the van while your dog was in there, we're covered, things like that. But those are all challenges for Go Buddy Run, and getting it to a max capacity so that you can start adding another shift to the van, right? Because that's one of my goals right now, is I want to get my first canine coach busy before I bring somebody else in. So I would like to have 2 shifts on the van daily and then open on the weekends, where I can have the second employee overlap his shift. So she or he will have kind of a ride along / training, right? And then eventually separate the 2 shifts, right? Where they just swap out of the van for however the shifts are going to be set up. And if I can get that one van to max capacity, then it'll be an easier decision to add a new van. And a possibility is that it's going to have to require some type of partnership with somebody else who can bring who can put some skin in the game to grow the business. Because I've been reached out to several times, dozens of times actually, over the last 2 years. People trying to seek franchise opportunities, like, oh, they want to open this up in Roanoke, in Richmond, in North Carolina or in Florida. Yeah, people like it when they see it online as a business idea, but it's harder than it seems. It's not hand over fist right off the bat, because most people don't even know what it is. That's the biggest challenge. And Pawdicure, the biggest challenge for Pawdicure is finding technicians who are motivated to do this, right? And a lot of cases in the grooming industry, right, you're grooming dogs for between 5 to 9 hours a day. You're not trying to stop by on your way home and do some more work with dogs, right? In some cases, right? So it's hard to attract them in a way that they want to stay. But that's changing. I initiated a incentive program for bonuses, where if you're a Pawdicure tech and you do 10 appointments, you get a $100 bonus. And once you hit your 100th service, you get $400. And then when you hit 500 services, you'll get a $1,000 bonus. So $1,500 total as an incentive. But I think I need to do more. And over the next several months, I will. And whoever's out there who's interested, to check it out in a few months and see what's available and what other incentives are there for you to join the platform and connect yourself with local clients.
I would think also weather would be a challenge for Go Buddy Run, because you get a snowstorm come in. I don't know how much you guys normally get in a winter, but if you get a pretty decent dump down, van ain't gonna go too quickly anywhere,
That's true. Yeah.
And how many more likely for somebody to book an appointment, because they might not want to go trudge through the snow with their dog, but a lot harder for your tech to get out there and to complete that appointment. Competition for Go Buddy Run and Pawdicure is zero, basically, right? So you're not really dealing with competition there, which is great, but in the same sense, kind of a reason why there's no competition, because it's so niche and so new of a service that you're breaking ground for others to copy you and do what you do and skip the mistakes. You're taking on all the learning and all the mistakes, which would be another challenge for yourself.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. That's true. Somebody reached out to my coach a few months ago and wanted to hire him to help start another one. So there is some demand or to want to start, like there's people out there who want to do it. But yeah, it's tough. Like I said, especially now, you have to put a lot of money into a new van. They're way more expensive today than they were when I got mine. I'm sure you can find a good deal out there. But yeah, you're right. Like, I'm the one showing everybody what to do and what not to do. Right. And I don't know exactly where that line is, like, of what not to do and what to do in terms of developing it. But like with most businesses, sometimes, especially when you're just small business, you're not like some Ivy League business technician. I'm sorry about that. then you got to learn as you go. Mistakes are part of the process of to perfection, or to profitability, to a good spot. You have to make mistakes, and I think that's something that should be embraced instead of feared. Right? Fear is one thing that I feel like stops a lot of people. Right? And over planning as well. On the Marine Corps, planning is everything. Right? When you're planning an operation, you plan. But if you're a Marine, you know, no matter how long you planned, never goes to plan. Right? So over planning can become a crutch. It's better to have a plan, execute, adapt, and continue to plan and execute as things go. That way, you know, you look down in the future, 2, 3 years, 5 years down the line, and you're in somewhere completely different, right? You can look back and be like, damn, if I never made that first step that I wasn't sure about, I would not be here. So I always tell people, if they have a good idea, just do it. If it's not going to make you go bankrupt, do it. You know, that's
You
the
learn a
only way
lot,
you're going to know if it's going to work.
and you learn a lot more from your failures than you do your successes, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I didn't screw some things up in the past, you know. And it's humbling too when you fail, because I've had these grand ideas that I thought were going to work, you know, and you get attached to these ideas sometimes. And it's hard to let go of the idea because you were so certain about it. So once you overcome that, it humbles you. Like, damn, I was. Now that I think about it in a straight, uh, in a more clear-headedness way, um, that wasn't the greatest idea. The 3D glasses. Why did I spend hundreds of dollars creating a corporation that had no income, no product, and develop it, and you know, just signing up and establishing accounts that now you're going to get correspondence for basically a ghost business that doesn't really do anything. And I'm getting a bill from LegalZoom, right? From this, like, come on, I'm gonna be over here like Will Smith pushing 3D glasses, and it's like, hey, that's
Please, begging people to buy. And look,
yeah,
look at it now. That was what, like 10, less than 15 years ago that 3D TVs were huge, and now no, like I feel like they were hot for like 2 years tops, and now nobody wants them.
yeah, they were. Look, I was so passionate about that idea that I bought a 3D TV myself, and I was an early adopter. So let me tell you, it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap. It's a big, it's 4K at least, but so, which was also kind of new. That's like when it went down from like $20,000 for a 4K TV to, you know, in the thousands. At 3D, it goes back up. I'm looking at the 3D TV right now, and my kids never put on the dang glasses. I did it once, and I was like, damn. It's like, it's a good thing I never made that Alibaba order, because
Yeah.
but those kind of humbling experiences, you know, when you finally come around, and it's all about growing, you know, like your mindset changes as you get older and you experience new things. And, you know, in the future, it'll be easier to abandon something when you realize it's working. You can kind of identify that in your heart, like, man, I'm really just attached to this because something else, because financially it's not making the most sense, and it doesn't seem to be working the way I had originally anticipated. You know, it's easier to analyze your situation and make those executive decisions, like, all right, we have to stop this, or we have to change this policy immediately, or institute a new policy, or whatever it can be. And it varies from business to business, but It's all about the process. And I know it sounds corny, but some people, I've seen it. What do they say? It's all about the journey. It's about the journey, not the destination. That's what they say.
Right.
And in a way, it's true in business too. You know, I think so.
Looking back from when I first started with Phil and the other businesses that we've done to where we're at now, it's been less than 10 years, but it feels like my whole life. It's so much that's been done, and yet we're feels like we just get started. And it is the journey. The journey is huge. Looking back on everything is it's awesome.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Yeah.
there were times where it sucked. It's gonna suck for anybody starting a business, and even if you're an established business, it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. But the journey is awesome, and that's I know setbacks, failures, lessons learned. We've been talking about that, but it seems like a lot lately, at least in the Facebook group, we've had several people asking about staying motivated and how other owners are doing that, and like what's getting them through the day and just not giving up on the business. What's your take on that? How are you doing it? Because it could be seasonal, especially where you have snow like the Midwest or anywhere else, but it seems harder. So what's your take on it? How are you doing it?
That's a great question because, you know, I experienced those times where, you feel almost paralyzed, like with whether it's stress, anxiety. Some people, which is normal, suffer from depression from time to time, and some of that stuff is cyclical as well. Um, and then you have all these other things in life, like my kids. My kids are always pulling me at every direction. Right? My kids go to school and they got their plays, they got this stuff, but I have to do something for the business or something, or I have to attend to something specific by this time, so I'm not going to make it there. So now you feel like you're having small failures in different aspects of your life, and they kind of build up sometimes, and it could be hard to get out of that. And I've been there. I've been there several times, where, and so has my wife too. Um, and that's actually the key to it is actually having somebody else that you could talk to, right? Whether it's your friend, your partner. In my case, it's my wife, um, where we lift each other up, right? And thankfully, we're not usually down at the same time. Um, it's usually one or the other, right? And in a lot of cases, if I'm down and she is, she'll toughen up and pretend, and me vice versa, right? I feel just as bad as you do, sweetheart, but I'm not going to let you know. I'm going to fake the funk and motivate you. Um, and thinking of the future is really, and visualizing it is really uh, one way you can motivate yourself, right? Because the human mind is very powerful, right? If you visualize things, you can materialize them over time slowly, right? And not just by magic, right? I'm not talking about no magic stuff. I'm talking about visualizing it and keeping it in that back of your head, and that's your destination, and you are making small steps and giving yourself credit, even if it's a small step. Like if you feel you haven't done anything, like to for your business, all right, because you're in a rut, man, do a little small step and give yourself credit for it. And then realize, that wasn't that bad. That took me like 15, 20 minutes to do that paperwork, right? Do it again, and then do more, and then clean your office. Things like that. Declutter. Things like that will reinvigorate you. And at least it has for me, right? Because I know we've been in situations where we felt like giving up, especially my wife, because she like I said earlier, she was there hustling and bustling by herself, and which sometimes with only two other employees. Sometimes she was the only one there with like 6, 7 dogs, right, by herself. Um, yeah, she would sometimes be like, "Hey, sweetheart, or baby, I don't think this is. I don't want to do it no more. My body hurts. I'm tired. People are mean, right? Uh, they don't appreciate it. All this stuff." And I would always tell her to think again, like I said earlier, think about the future. All right. Think about the question you'll ask yourself in the future. Like, if you're in a rut, think about 5 years from now and think about what you're going to ask yourself in 5 years. Like, are you going to ask yourself, this is this where I wanted to be? Or are you going to ask yourself, like, maybe asking, excuse me, let me try to rephrase this in a way that makes sense. You look into the future, and are you going to have regrets? Essentially, that's a better way to put it. Like, in 5 years, will you regret this decision? Right? It's better, and so I tell my kids too, when they're having some time where they're not feeling too hot about whatever it is, they don't want to do their gymnastics or dance or whatever sport it is that they're in or activity. I always tell them, hey, you can quit, but you can't quit on a bad day. Right? I heard somebody say this before, and I took it to heart because it was actually, so don't quote me on that. That's somebody else's mantra that I agree with. Quit on a good day. Like, when you're feeling great, then quit. You won't want to. You won't, right? I told my son, like, quit after you win the game. When you guys win the championship, then quit, right? Or you're going to want to keep playing. So ask yourself that when you're in a rut, sit back, self-reflect, and think about what you're going to say to yourself in 5 years. Or if you have kids, what are your kids going to tell you? Like, hey, Dad, I remember that you were running that Domino's. Whatever happened to it? It's like, it just got too hard, so I stopped. Right? Whatever. Or maybe it was time for you to stop. You were like, oh, I sold it. I made a profit, and I didn't want to do business because I wanted to hang out with you. That's also great. That's also cool too, because I love
Yeah.
my kids, and I wish I had, more resources and time to just show them the whole world. Just, teach them how to grow and teach them about business. Right? Teach them how, like, hey, you can build something. You can be the boss of your own life, right? And those are the kind of things that motivate me. And when I'm feeling down and no motivation, I think about my kids and what I'm going to tell them, right? What am I going to tell myself? Like, because I have this vision of us being here. So if I don't hit that, if I'm not there, what happened? What happened? Why did I do this? So I don't know if that makes sense. I hope if
No,
you're,
that was fantastic. The quit don't I'm gonna steal whoever you got it from, but don't quit on a bad day. Think about how you feel, save it for a great day, and then ask yourself that day if you want to quit. You're
yeah,
not going to want to, like you said, you're not going to want to because you set out to do something and you're in the thick of it. And yeah, it's a crappy, shitty day. It's things aren't going your way, whether it's you got no new clients or, 5 cancellations, or whether it's not a business. It could be somebody T-boned your car and you don't have the money to fix it, or whatever it is. It just don't quit on a bad day. Is
yeah.
that
So it hit you like it hit me, man. When I heard it, I was like, that makes so much sense.
yeah.
That makes
it,
so much sense. If you
and
feel like quitting, do it on a good day. and see if.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if anybody posts in the group now that I'm going to use that, it's just, you don't have to overdo it. You don't got to, doesn't have to be the whole paragraph or three letting them know or figuring out what's going on. Just lay it out there. Quit on a
Yeah.
good day. See if you want to then. Not going to want to. Shifting towards marketing, I'm sure marketing channels are all different for all three businesses, but what what's working for all of them? I know you're trying to get GoBuddy Run, more customers and keep the acquisition there. But yeah, what are some of the campaigns that you're running and how are those going?
So for GoBuddy Run, we usually do digital marketing on Instagram and Facebook. Occasionally, we have in the past posted on Twitter, but Twitter's a different beast. It's not. People consume things differently on there, and they're consuming different types of content. They're not looking at like necessarily reels. They're looking at some images and written content from people that they follow, whether it's news or political stuff. People are really political on X. But right now, so I've shut down our marketing campaigns for GoBuddy Run for now, just because I want to try something different that's free. So here's one. So what we do is we actually take this, stick it in the ground, and park at different places, like by dog parks and places where there's a lot of dog traffic. Right outside of our shop too. We'll park the van and put this out there. And sometimes people will come and they'll leave the shop and go and get a free trial, or they'll do it before. And sometimes they convert to customers, sometimes they don't, because it's a small trial. We don't do the whole 30 minutes. It's usually like a 5-minute trial. And if it works out, sometimes they convert, or sometimes it's more of a novelty thing. They just wanted to kind of see it, which is totally fine too, because we can get them to do the marketing for us, right? Instead of us going out there and sharing and paying money to try to get impressions, well, we can do free trials, right? And let them take videos, especially if their dog is doing good, and let them share with their friends. And we try to emphasize the referral system that BookingKoala has, that we try to use and emphasize to people, because the referral, if you refer somebody, you get a free run, you get a $50 credit. That's basically like free run, almost enough to cover for both dogs. You pay $5 if you have 2 dogs, and that's pretty powerful, I think. Like, if you actually like the service, you can get a free run too. Refer your friend, they get a free run. Once we validate that they've completed their service, which BookingKoala does automatically, right? You get credited the money, the credit in your account, and you can book your dog's next session or apply it to that next session. So we've had people use that, but I think that's the strategy going forward, is to emphasize that, the referral program, and doing these kind of free trials so we can do free marketing. That helps us lower our cost, and it's a more natural. It's almost like a natural word of mouth, but with a little boost, a little help. And that's the strategy for GoBuddy Run right now. And I usually have my coach as well when there's a good candidate for content. We have a setup where he takes videos, and then I can download them from the cloud and edit them with some spicy music from like Instagram, some nice beats, and that can get a lot of impressions. It can get shared, and then occasionally we can just boost specific boost specific kind of posts on whatever platform we feel is going to reach the most people. Another thing is the community groups where you can post for free. Those are actually one of the, and for cleaning businesses, I think this is a good one too. And they probably already know this, but most communities and cities, there's social groups within Facebook. Like my community has this whole community group, and there's like over 40,000 people in it. So occasionally you post there, just make sure they're not spamming them because you get kicked out depending on the group's rules. And another app is Nextdoor. Nextdoor is great, right? And if you have people, friends that know about your service that are in these groups, that's a tool to use, and it's free. I'm all about trying to do as much as possible with as little as possible when it comes to marketing. Because I'm not this huge business that I can have this large budget for marketing like some of these other companies, and I'm not a drop shipper, which it seems like they found the formula. I see a product pop out of nowhere, ads everywhere, and next thing you know, everybody's got Stanley cups, just like that. I'm like, damn, whoever got that's the formula right there.
Yeah.
But and for Pawdicure, we do paid marketing, a small amount daily, just to kind of permeate the Northern Virginia area and where our technicians are already active, so that they can generate new customers. But it's not a big spend; it's just a recurring spend, and then I rotate the content every so often so that they're not saturated with the same ads. And when I can, I try to learn about new tools and test them out. So with some of my campaigns, like the ad campaigns and the media that I'm creating, I try to experiment with AI. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. Hey, and I got a great tip for folks who are using BookingKoala too, with AI. It's great. Can I say it now, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, I know most people who probably use BookingKoala are not coders, right? So, how do you add a button that is more tailored to you, or how do you embed a video and make it responsive to like a phone and a screen? Because I've tried this before, right? Because I've made a video and I've embedded it on the website, and at first it just looked funky, right? When I put it in there, it covers the whole page from left to right. And when I open it on mobile, now that it's not only scrollable from up and down, you can scroll all the way to the right and it's all white. It's tough. I was like, how do I fix this? That's where AI comes in. I actually, you can use the HTML on the theme builder, and you explain to the AI what you want to do. So let's say if you want to put a video in there that's responsive, right? You take the video, the link, and you put it into like a ChatGPT type program or Bard, which is free. And you tell it, hey, I want to embed this in my website. Can you code it so that it's responsive to the different windows and devices, right? So when somebody opens it, and it worked beautifully. And I was like, damn, that's pretty powerful. I'm sure people would like that because, when you're dealing with HTML or, different types of coding and you're not familiar with it, it's hard just to get a button to move from all the way to the right. You want it centered. Like, that takes code. And if you don't know it, Bard or AI does. You can just tell it, hey, how do I make this this button that I want to push, that I want on here, that maybe links somewhere else, how do I make it centered and rounded? You know, you don't. It
Not,
can do
not,
that for you.
not. You're making a lot of people happy, but you're also upsetting the coders that are getting some jobs out of this. But hey, that's AI. AI is doing that. It's taking a lot of things and streamlining it and making it easier for everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, in the case that I'm talking about, it's not really taking. If anything, if I have to call a coder to move a button on my website, right, where that's too much of a disconnect, man. I need something better. I can't call you when I want my button on the top right of the screen
Yeah.
versus the middle, right? So with AI, with BookingKoala, the theme builder, it's already pretty malleable, and you can do so many things with it already. But when you're adding custom CSS or custom HTML, right? That's where the AI can help a little bit. So that if you're creating some content for it to kind of differentiate it and make it more yours, I think for people who don't really code and just need simple stuff like centering divs and the code to make it reactive, it's like 4 lines of code that I would have never known. And you know, I just think that if you are out there like that and you're trying to do something and feel frustrated with adding some customization to your BookingKoala website, that's something to look into. You know,
Great tip for sure. I know that's going to help a lot of people. And even if they weren't looking for it, they might play around with it now and realize that something that they could do now and change some things up and make improvements to their website. Going towards revenue wise, Little Jennas, do you know what are you doing yearly for that?
Little Jennas does about, it varies between 550 to 600,000, around there. We hover around there annually. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then what about the other two? What about GoBuddy Run and Pawdicure? Obviously
So
not as big because they're newer, but
yeah. So this last year, GoBuddy Run did about 65,000, which is not a lot, and it's not a lot to pay me, which is I'm not worried about it necessarily at this point, right? But it has grown, so it went from in the 60s to last year being like 34,000 or something like that. So almost doubled, which is good. That's a great sign. Um, And I give credit to the Canine coach because he has great customer service. Everybody loves him, which is good because now I can't get rid of him. You hear me, Nick? If you're watching this, better stay on your toes, man. But Pawdicure is the one that's growing fastest. I mean, last year it did like almost 8,000. This is the first full year of being operational. And this year we did close to 40,000 in nail trims. Or not this year, I'm sorry, in 2023. So 2022 is close to like 12,000, if I'm not mistaken, between 12 and 16,000. I don't have the numbers in front of me. And then this year, I'm sorry, 2023, close to 40,000, somewhere in that area, just nail trims, which is fantastic, right? If you think about it, that's a big rate of growth, but it's
that
it's
is
just nail
huge.
trims, just nail
That
trims.
right, because house cleaning, the average ticket's a little over $100, maybe between 100 150, right? And it takes several hours. But here, your average ticket's what, $25 and takes 30 minutes?
Yeah, and the average ticket is more than $25 because people love this service so much that they make recurring services, but they usually have an upgrade, so they usually get the nail buffing, and so many of them have have multiple pets. So I think the average ticket price is closer to 50. I'd have to look on BookingKoala
but
because it
still
has
half,
that data. Yeah.
of, the other main interviews that I've done are home cleaning businesses. So half the ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Less than half the time, but you're competing with those bigger businesses on just nail trims.
Yeah, definitely. And the only competition that Pawdicure has, because it's really, I look at Pawdicure more as a platform versus a nail trimming business. The goal of Pawdicure.com is to put the professional in connection to the customer. We're just the conduit, right? We're just putting you all together. We don't actually do nail trimming as a business. We just facilitate the two and bring them together. But we set it up so that you can do up to the blocks are usually like 20 minutes. So technically, if there's just a single dog, right, it's a 20-minute slot. So you can technically do 3 slots in an hour, especially since you're local, right? And there's so many cool features on BookingKoala. So let's just say that technician did have the 3 dogs in that 1 hour, and they're running late because maybe it was a little further than expected. They click one button, and the customer gets a text message that, hey, they're running a little late. They'll be there. Or they can customize the message like, hey, sorry, I'll be there at whatever time. But it's pretty lucrative because we pay the technicians 60% and 100% of the tips. So we're only taking a small share of what they're bringing in, because the idea was to build a gig economy for our people, pet people, pet professionals. That was what we set out to do. It's like we wanted to build a gig economy specifically for them, and just nail trims. That's it. Something that they could do. And if they don't want to do it no more, they can hop off. And the intent is to develop the business and get so many technicians that's okay, right? If you drop off, no problem. Your appointments go in the unassigned folder, and there's like 5 more technicians here to pick them up, right? And then we have a customer service team to facilitate any type of communication with the customer if there needs to be changes, right? But it can be very lucrative. When we were first testing out the concept and doing it, just me and my wife did like $200 and something in 2 hours for only like 4 appointments. One house had 4 dogs. One house had 3 cats. And I was like, damn, you make more than me when I was working, for different contracting companies out here. And I was like, damn, you make more than me. That's like $96 an hour. Like nail trims. Like, that's incredible. So that was kind of like a sign, like, hey, there's something special here, right? Because that's what she took home, right? That's what she got paid out. $96 an hour, basically, if you did the math. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then now you can just start extrapolating it from that. Like, okay, if we have X amount of technicians, right? Then if they all average 4 services a day, or let's just say if we have this amount of technicians and they all average 10 appointments a week, right? In a large geographic area. So now you're talking serious business with just nail trims. And I'm happy to say that it's working, and I really thank you and your team, because you guys are empowering it, and I'm just pushing the software to the limit and doing things that are a little bit unorthodox that a lot of people wouldn't expect you can do with Pawdicure. With BookingKoala, and that's the message. That's one of the messages to send, right? Is that it doesn't have to be a cleaning business. right? Because I know that's the biggest user base. It can be anything. If it needs to be scheduled, you can probably do it with BookingKoala, and you can configure it in a way that is unique to your business. And like I said earlier on, the configurability, if that's a word, is it's definitely an asset. Like and it doesn't cost that much. So if your idea doesn't work, unfortunately, you might just have to cancel the service, but it's not that expensive, especially when you're starting out on the lower tier plans.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
for
mean,
the
going
fact,
and real quick, touching on your service providers for Pawdicure, would a car and specific nail clippers for pets that what $20 a pop that you don't really
yeah,
need to replace, like that they don't have a lot of equipment that they need to one carry around, and two is expensive to them, and as long as they got a car that's reliable and they could get to the appointment, like you said, it's not like house cleaning. It's not, you don't have to keep re-upping your supplies. Maybe you got to resharpen the tools, but that's not,
yeah,
you're not doing
and
that a lot.
we develop a handbook that we send them when they onboard. That gives them a lot of details on how to do it, what to do, and it outlines different scenarios, and what happens if you cut the dog, what happens if the dog bites you, um, which hasn't happened yet, thank goodness. Um, but those are all risks, and identifying those risks and outlining how they will be dealt with, which is a challenge, but we do that through the handbook, so that it's clear to the technician what they're getting themselves into and what kind of responsibilities they have to protect themselves and the pets, right? And same with the pet parent, right? We outline that too to them before they book, that hey, you have certain responsibilities too, like to inform us if your dog has ever bitten somebody, um, or if your dog requires a muzzle, things like that. And another thing that we also do is it's optional for the technician, right? Which is great. This is a good thing, that a good feature that BookingKoala has, right? They get the appointment alert, but they're not automatically assigned it. You could set it up like that, where it's automatically assigned, but for our purposes, we don't, right? We want them, they're independent. They don't want to do it, they don't do it. And then that means somebody that I pay has to figure out the customer service aspect of it. Like, hey, sorry, the technician in your area doesn't want to do your dog. Obviously not tell them like that, but but
Right. Just
customer
let them
service.
know.
Yeah, we offload all the customer service from the technician. We deal with all of that. The only customer service that they need to provide is at the point of service, right? Afterwards, they don't need to, let's just say the service wasn't completed, right? Because the dog was crazy, right? They don't need to worry about getting phone calls from the client, right? We handle all of that. Because we try to make it as easy as possible for the technician to do a job, get paid, and move on. Right? That's what we want to build. Right? We want it to build it so that you can be on your way home at a red light and get a buzz on your phone and be like, oh shoot, there's an unassigned gig right down the road. You know what? Let me go pick up 30, $40, and you go and do it, and you finish, go back home. The dog grooming profession, and depending on where you are and um, the salon that you're at, you can make good money. Um, but also, there's other places where it's not like the most lucrative thing, right? You're not bringing in hand over fist, but you're getting by, right? You're getting by, and maybe you can have a vacation, things like that. Um, But when times get hard, right? If your shop shuts down for whatever reason, you can still fall back on your skill set to fill in the gaps when they arise. I I was telling my wife, like, this is incredible. Like, in 2 hours, you earn enough to feed our family for the whole week in 2 hours, right? And I thought that was special, and I wanted to. I really want people to see that, and I really want people to be able to participate if they're eligible, and if it's something that they feel will fit into their lives, right? Because we only require that they commit at least 2 hours a week initially, right? Since we only have a small amount of technicians, that's right now early on. There's a requirement that you have to at least have 2 hours of availability, right? Because we're not going to keep you on the platform if you're not going to take dogs or if you don't have a schedule, right? Because what's the point? We need to build the base of technicians alongside with the base of customers, and then we can start to relax some of those things. Where like, okay, if you want to be an inactive tech, that's fine, and you can kind of just take them as they come, right? Like if you can just prowl the unassigned appointments whenever you feel like it and take them or not. We're not there yet, though, but that's where we want to end up being, where we have several active technicians and other technicians who, maybe they take off their schedule just to kind of have it in their back pocket, be like, okay, I need money today because I'm going to go to the movie theater, or I want to go to this concert this weekend, and I need a little bit of extra cash for whatever reason, or things like that. And hopefully, people see the value in it, and I think they are.
I said it earlier on. If you were here, I'd be using both Pawdicure and Go Buddy Run.
Thank
to
you.
me, those are fantastic, and I know just it's going to take some time, but you will get there for sure. Moving towards the tech side of things, I mean, you've been mentioning throughout the whole interview how much you utilize the software and the things that you do utilize with it, but how big a role is it playing for you in at least those two businesses?
I mean, it's the driver. It's the driver of the service, really. I don't know. Maybe it exists, but I don't know of another more malleable platform or software stack that can create an Uber-like service for the common man like myself. All right. That's what really empowers, right? Different things, but for me, right, think about that, right? You're sitting on the couch watching TV, and you turn to your wife and you're like, "Babe, I got an idea. The Uber for pet nail trims. How are you gonna build it?" Well, there's a software company that has a tool that can facilitate that idea, all right? And that's what I've done with BookingKoala. And it started with Go Buddy Run, and through that endeavor, I learned a lot about the capabilities of the tool, some of the limitations, and adapt to it and have it adapt to me at the same time. Yeah, those are essential parts of the business, because they are what allows us to connect the people together. It makes it sound so simple, and in reality, I think it is, in terms of building it out. And if you feel like you can do it too, just don't use my name. Like, don't use Pawdicure.com and do it somewhere else, right? But you can do it too. You really can. If you have another idea, like let's say you fix bike tires, you can do that too. You can create the bike tire mobile guy or .com or whatever, and put it out there, and people book appointments for you to fix the flat tires on their kids' bikes that they haven't ridden for a few seasons. Right? I don't know how the tires went flat, but you can fix them.
There's a business idea that I've seen, and I'm not sure if anybody is using BookingKoala for it right now, but it is trash can cleaning for your outside bins. So say
Mm-hmm.
your bag ripped and you got a week old beef just in the middle of summer staking up your garbage can and it's just all gross and stuff. Sure, you could rinse it out, but there's somebody who started a business and I think it's like $15 a can. He'll come out and clean your bins, and that's something that you can set up BookingKoala with. The ideas are almost limitless, and
Mm-hmm.
with all the settings that there are, like you said, you can configure it however which way you want it to work, and more than likely it'll work. And if it doesn't, you shoot us an email about the feature request that you need, and we work it in and putting it in for you, because that's what it's all about. It's not letting companies like Uber have all the
Mm-hmm.
hold on the space. We are going to get to a point where you can start your own Uber business, legit like Uber, for ordering a car and dropping you off somewhere. We're not there yet. We know that there's missing features for that, but end goal is going to be that, where you could start your own, obviously not call it Uber or Lyft, but the same concept,
Yeah.
and compete with them. And you're not keeping whatever the cut is. I think last Uber driver I talked to said they're at like 45% now or 50%. And when it first started, it was like they were keeping 90. Now you could keep 100. If you want to start the business and be the driver and keep all of it yourself and set the prices, there you go.
Yeah. I like that about the software, and it's empowering. That's like you just said. The ideas are only limited really by your imagination. Really, like picking up poop. You can pick up poop, right?
There
You
are
can do,
businesses that use us for that.
yeah. You can anything. You could do oil changes, right? If you had a truck with the equipment, right? No more going to the place, so we can do it outside, right? I don't know. I don't know, but I'm just spitballing here.
There's,
Uh,
I mean,
like I said, it's anything. If you need to figure out how to connect to a customer and exchange information in a secure way and a professional way, then BookingKoala does it, right? I'm sure there's all sorts of tools. There's hundreds of tools out there, hundreds and hundreds of them, right? But they're not all as customizable, And I know a little bit about it because I started using a program for gym memberships when I built when we were building Little Jennas, right? And it worked fantastically. And I did that because it had some customization that worked for us that tools built for grooming didn't. And it really helped us out. It separated us a little bit. And basically, it's like with the software, I was cramming a square into a circle hole. And in real life, that doesn't work. But in this case, when it comes to software, it does. Like it can. And with BookingKoala, and I'm not trying to sound too shilly here, but I always recommend it, and I'm actually recommending it right now to my brother who has various ideas. He wants to get into business, and like I was saying earlier, it's better just to shoot your shot while you got the chance, right? Instead of waiting and then something else coming up that's going to stop you, right? Or don't let planning become a crutch, right? So that's what I told him, and I was like, "Look, dude, I built these businesses. I built Pawdicure, and I went operational from the time I got the idea to the time I bought the domain, right? It took literally, but I did tell him, like, you probably won't be able to do it that fast. I was able to do it that fast because I built Go Buddy Run on it, so I can blast through the configuration, on the second time. But that's all you got to do, man. Just whatever your idea is, you can probably find a way to use BookingKoala, or just go out there and figure it out yourself. Whatever, right? You don't have to, but I think BookingKoala is a good start for the price point when you're just getting started too. All right.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear it. How long have you been using it then?
I started using it when I first started GoBuddyRun. That was the first platform that I used. And so I've been using it since at least, when did I start GoBuddyRun? What did I say? 2020 was the first operation. I started in 2019, December 2019, I believe.
So 3 years now.
So yeah, about 3 years. Yeah, 3 years on GoBuddyRun. And this is the second full year. No, this year would be the third year of Pawdicure, because we started that in 2021. Yeah, right. I might have my dates mixed up. I don't have the information in front of me. So,
Several years.
but yeah, several years
years.
of having BookingKoala power two of my companies, and 2 years of messing around with it sometimes too. At least 1 year of just bothering you guys' team, like, hey, this doesn't work, or yes, it does. You just have to do this, or well, oh, sorry, I was looking everywhere for that. I just must have scrolled right past that feature, or that whatever toggle button for that particular thing, but. Like, for example, here's one. This is probably fixed. This was a few years ago, but I didn't want the cash option to be on the website, like when they were booking. It's an easy fix. It's there. It's right in your face. But when you're sometimes you don't, you ask for help before you exhaust your own research capability. That was me.
It gets overwhelming. There are a ton of settings, so it does happen. I mean, when I get in there sometimes and I look for something, I'm like, where the hell is this? Where did this go? Like, did we move it? No, it's just right in front of my face, and I
scrolling
going
too
fast, like you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just moving too fast. What's one feature that you would say is your favorite? And let's take away just the entire software as a whole.
One feature that is my favorite on BookingKoala.
On BookingKoala.
My favorite feature is the ability to allow technicians and empower them to make the choice on whether they want the job or not. I think that is the most powerful feature, because it really creates the sense of a gig type economy, and it really creates the sense of independence, right? Because they're not really independent if they have to do it. And yeah, I mean, technically, if they have to do it, they're not really contractors. They're employed. But with that feature, you can really make them independent and give them the power to do whatever job they want. And I like that. I like that. And I like that the way we set it up is the technicians can't initiate the cancellation on themselves. So once they commit to it, right, if they want to back out, they have to talk to somebody. And I like that feature too. The whole technician and or contractor management is an essential tool. And now you want me to say what would I do if you guys took that away? Is that what you were asking me?
No.
Oh, okay. I was
going to ask, what are you waiting for? What's one feature we don't have but you're waiting for?
One feature that I am looking forward to is a more streamlined or maybe a plugin for routing, right? Like I want intelligent routing to have whoever's moving on the road be more efficient in the way they're doing. I want the system to uh, recommend uh, routes. You know, like recommend the best route to, like based on the appointment list for that day or for that particular technician. You know, what routes they should take, when should they leave, just a little bit more intelligent routing and notifications for the technician, right? So that they can uh, be more efficient and in their fuel costs. And with that, since I mentioned fuel costs and efficiency, uh, uh, more, I think a more streamlined system to track miles, like when they are on the road, um, a more streamlined system so that you can output the miles for them at the end of the year, or they can keep tabs of it uh, in the provider app, right?
Okay.
Because that is a tax write-off for them. The amount of fuel they spend or miles they're going for independent work or gig work, and to have them have access to that information, uh, I think it's, and me on the back end too, in case they're like, hey, how many miles did I do? Well, it's on the app. Oh, I don't know how to do it. All right, here you go. Right. I think that's a good feature to do, that they can keep and submit to their accountant or whoever's doing their taxes. I'm not giving them tax advice, but I do know that if you're driving as part of your work, that it's a tax deduction or it's a deductible expense. But talk to your qualified tax accountant to make sure that everything's
Definitely not legal
PC.
advice or
Yeah.
any accounting advice
Mm-hmm.
on our part there. Last question. Advice to your 10-year-old self. What are you telling him?
Uh, that's a tough one. What would I tell my 10-year-old self? Uh, I would say hey, Nate, you need to slow down sometimes and be more present. You get consumed with your ideas and you start to get some tunnel vision where you don't see the things that are happening around you because you're so laser focused on something, which it can be good, but you need to learn how to turn it off. You need to learn how to turn it off and open up your peripherals and see the world and enjoy it and be present, right? Because there's other people who are around you that need you, and they can't have you sitting in the basement office for 6 hours on a project that you're working on, right? Whether it's setting up a Bitcoin node or Lightning nodes or whatever you're doing, slow down sometimes. Go smell some flowers. Your wife would appreciate that. Maybe you can give her flowers too more often. Definitely give her flowers more often.
Love it. Weekly flowers.
Yeah,
Nate,
that's all I got.
love it. I love it. I
Mhm.
appreciate it. I mean, everything that the insight that you've given us on not just one, but three different businesses and, two that are super unique, in
And young.
themselves and young. Yeah, of course. But it's just the ideas that you're giving everybody, not just to copy you, but the proof of concept that it's not just BookingKoala is not just tailored for the home cleaning industry. It's like you said earlier, anything that needs an appointment or you need to set up customers with information gathering and payment and all that set up, it can be done. And all the information you gave us today has just been awesome. It's been a pleasure to get to know you,
Thank
and
you.
your story. And again, thank you for your time. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope to be
Awesome.
back again soon.
Definitely. We will have you on in another year or two and do an update episode.
Oh, part 2. Yeah. All right,
Awesome.
great.
Everybody, stay tuned next week for another episode of the Qualified Podcast.